The biker watched a waitress get fired for helping his autistic son breathe through a panic attack. The owner's cruelty seemed final, until she vanished that same night. What the owner didn't know, this biker had 1,000 brothers. And they were already on their way. The espresso machine screamed like a dying animal. Damon Kane didn't notice it at first. He was too busy watching his son Theo's fingers drum against the laminated menu, 1, 2, 3, tap tap tap, the rhythm that meant everything was okay. They'd been on the road for 6 hours, cutting through the Nevada desert on their way to Carson City, and this rundown diner was supposed to be a quick stop. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Eggs, toast, back on the bike. Then the machine shrieked again. Theo's hands flew to his ears. His whole body went rigid, knees pulling up to his chest as he rocked forward in the booth. The menu clattered to the floor. Hey, buddy, Damon reached across the table, but Theo was already gone, eyes squeezed shut, breath coming in short, sharp gasps. It's okay. It's just noise. Just noise. It wasn't working. Damon felt the familiar spike of helplessness, the same one he'd felt 1,000 times since Theo's mom left. He was a decent father, he thought he was, anyway, but moments like this reminded him how much he was still learning. How much he didn't know. Excuse me. A voice, soft but firm. Damon looked up to see a waitress crouching beside their booth. She was young, maybe 25, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and tired eyes that somehow looked kind anyway. Her name tag said Marina. Can I try something? She asked, not waiting for an answer. She positioned herself at Theo's eye level, just outside his space, not crowding him. Hey, sweetheart. My name's Marina. That sound is really loud, isn't it? Theo didn't respond, but his rocking slowed just a fraction. I'm going to count, Marina continued, her voice steady, rhythmic. And I want you to breathe with me. Ready? In for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 inch. Damon watched, stunned, as Theo's chest began to follow her pattern. In. Hold. Out. That's perfect, Marina whispered. You're doing amazing. Let's do it again. 3 more cycles, and Theo's hands slowly lowered from his ears. His eyes opened, still scared, still overwhelmed, but present. Marina smiled at him, then glanced at Damon. My little brother has autism, she explained quietly. Loud, unexpected noises are the worst for him too. Thank you, Damon managed. His throat felt tight. Seriously. Thank you. Marina stood, brushing off her apron. No problem. I'll tell Carl to lay off the espresso machine for a bit. You guys want some water? Maybe some crayons? That'd be great. She started toward the counter, but before she could take 3 steps, a door behind the register slammed open. A heavy-set man in his 50s emerged, his face red, neck veins bulging. Carl Maddox, according to the faded owner sign on his office door. Marina. His voice boomed across the half-empty diner. What the hell are you doing? Marina froze. I was just helping a customer. You were on the floor, Carl jabbed a finger at her. On your knees. In front of customers. Do you have any idea how that looks? His son needed help, Marina said, her voice smaller now. He was having a panic attack. I don't care if he was having a heart attack. Carl's face darkened another shade. You're a waitress, not a therapist. Take orders, bring food, keep your hands to yourself. Damon felt something cold settle in his chest. He slid out of the booth, standing slowly. Hey. She was helping my kid. There's no problem here. Carl's eyes snapped to him, taking in the leather vest, the Iron Wolves patch on the back, the road dust on Damon's boots. For a second, something flickered across his face, not fear exactly, but calculation. "No problem." Carl laughed, sharp and mean. "My employee is on the ground coddling your kid because he can't handle a little noise. That's not service. That's liability." "Carl, please," Marina started. "You're fired." The diner went silent. Even the couple in the corner booth stopped eating. Marina's face drained of color. "What? You heard me. Fired. Clock out, grab your stuff, get out." Carl crossed his arms. "I've had enough of your bleeding heart bullshit. This is a diner, not a daycare." Damon's hands curled into fists. Every instinct screamed at him to step forward, to say something, to do something, but Theo was behind him, still fragile, still watching. He couldn't make this worse. Not here. Not now. Marina's eyes found Damon's for just a moment. She looked like she wanted to apologize, though she had nothing to apologize for. Then she untied her apron with shaking hands and walked toward the back. Carl muttered something about snowflakes and disappeared into his office. The espresso machine hissed again, quieter this time but still grating. Damon sat back down slowly. Theo was staring at the table, his fingers tapping again, 1, 2, 3, tap tap tap, but faster now. Anxious. "We're leaving, buddy," Damon said quietly. He pulled a 20 from his wallet and dropped it on the table, even though they hadn't ordered. Even though he wanted to burn the place down. As they stood to go, Theo tugged on Damon's sleeve. He was holding something, a napkin. Crumpled, with a simple drawing on it, a small sun inside a square, sketched in blue pen. "Marina gave this to you?" Damon asked. Theo nodded. Damon smoothed the napkin, studying it. "Just a doodle, probably. Something to comfort a scared kid. But something about it felt deliberate. The lines were too precise. The sun's rays were too evenly spaced." He pocketed it and guided Theo toward the door. Outside, the desert heat hit them like a wall. Damon helped Theo onto the back of his Harley, adjusting his helmet, making sure everything was secure. His phone buzzed as he mounted the bike. A text from Rico, his VP, "How's the ride?" Damon stared at the diner's dusty windows, at the Dust Haven sign creaking in the wind. He thought about Marina's kind eyes. About Carl's red face. About the napkin in his pocket. He typed back, "Need to make a call. Something's not right." Then he kicked the engine to life and pulled onto the empty highway, the diner shrinking in his mirror. He didn't know it yet, but in 18 hours, Marina would be missing. And in 48 hours, 1,000 motorcycles would roll into Dust Haven like thunder. Damon couldn't sleep. They'd made it to Carson City by sunset, checked into a motel with a pool that Theo liked, ordered pizza. Normal stuff. Road trip stuff. But Damon's mind kept circling back to the diner, to Marina's face when Carl fired her, to the careful way she'd folded that napkin before handing it to Theo. At 2 in the morning, he gave up on sleep and stepped outside to smoke. The parking lot was empty except for his bike and a rusted pickup. He pulled out his phone, scrolling aimlessly, then stopped. He didn't know why he did it. Instinct, maybe. The same instinct that had kept him alive through 20 years of riding with the Iron Wolves. He searched, Marina Dust Haven Diner Nevada. Nothing came up. He tried variations. Marina Waitress fired. Dust Haven staff. Still nothing. Then, at 6:47 a.m., his phone buzzed with a news alert. Missing person, local woman vanishes after workplace incident. Damon sat up so fast he nearly dropped the phone. The article was brief, posted by a small-town news site called the Dust Haven Chronicle. Marina Colby, 26, was reported missing early Sunday morning by her roommate, Jessica Torres. Colby was last seen Saturday evening leaving the Dust Haven Diner, where she had been employed for 3 years. Sheriff Wallace is investigating but states there is currently no evidence of foul play. Saturday evening. That was yesterday. That was hours after they'd left. Damon's chest tightened. He read the article twice more, then clicked on the related links. One led to a Facebook post from Jessica Torres, Marina's roommate, time-stamped at 1:23 a.m. Please share, Marina never came home last night. Her car is still at the diner but she's not answering her phone. If anyone has seen her, please contact me or the sheriff's office. I'm so scared. The post had 47 shares. 47 people in a town this small, and nobody had seen her. Damon scrolled through the comments. Most were the usual, praying for you, hope she's okay, but one caught his eye, posted by someone named Linda Reeves. That diner owner is bad news. Everyone knows it. Why won't anyone say anything? Someone had replied, careful Linda. Carl has friends. Damon took a screenshot. He spent the next hour digging deeper, falling down rabbit holes of local gossip and half-deleted posts. Carl Maddox owned the diner outright, had for 15 years. Before that, he'd been a long-haul trucker. No major criminal record, but plenty of complaints filed and mysteriously dropped. Workplace disputes. Missing inventory. One lawsuit from a former employee that settled out of court. Then Damon found Carl's personal Facebook page. The most recent post was from last night, 11:34 p.m. Some people can't handle honest work. Good riddance to dead weight. I run MY business MY way. The comments were a mix of supportive locals and a few brave souls questioning the timing. Carl had responded to one of them. She walked off mad. Not my problem where she went. People need to grow up. Damon's jaw clenched. He screenshotted that too. At 7:30, Theo woke up and they had breakfast at a diner across town, a bright, clean place where nobody yelled at anyone. Theo drew pictures on his placemat with crayons the waitress brought without being asked. He drew the sun symbol again, the same one Marina had sketched. You really like that drawing, huh? Damon asked. Theo nodded, tapping the paper 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Marina was nice. Another nod. Theo's eyes were serious, older than 10 years had any right to be. She helped you. Tap, tap, tap. Yes. Damon made a decision. We're going back, buddy. Just for a little while. I need to check on something. They rode back toward Dust Haven under a climbing sun, the desert stretched out endless and gold on both sides of the highway. Damon kept the speed reasonable, one hand always aware of Theo behind him, small arms wrapped around his waist. When they pulled up to the diner just after 9 a.m., the parking lot was nearly empty. Marina's car, a faded blue Honda Civic, sat alone near the back entrance, exactly where the Facebook post said it would be. Damon parked the bike and told Theo to wait. He walked around the car slowly, looking through the windows. Nothing unusual. A gym bag in the back seat. An air freshener shaped like a pine tree. A parking permit for the community college. She'd left everything behind. He tried the diner's front door. Locked. A handwritten sign said, "Closed Sunday for maintenance." Convenient. Damon pulled out his phone and called the number listed for the sheriff's office. It rang 6 times before someone picked up. Sheriff Wallace, the voice was gruff, impatient. Yeah, hi. I'm calling about Marina Colby, the missing woman. A pause. Who's this? My name's Damon Kane. I was at the diner yesterday when she got fired. I'm worried. She wasn't fired. She quit. Damon blinked. That's not what happened. I was there. Carl Maddox fired her in front of everyone. Well, that's not what Mr. Maddox says. Wallace's tone shifted, becoming defensive. Look, friend, I appreciate the concern, but Marina's a grown woman. She probably needed to blow off some steam. Happens all the time with young people. They have a bad day, take off for a while, come back when they're ready. Her car is still here. Maybe she got a ride. Her phone's off. Maybe she doesn't want to be found. Wallace exhaled slowly, like he was explaining something to a child. Listen, I don't know who you are or why you're so interested, but unless you've got actual evidence of a crime, I'd suggest you move along. We've got it handled. Do you? Damon asked quietly. Excuse me? I said, do you have it handled? Because from where I'm standing, a woman vanishes hours after being publicly humiliated by her boss, and you're calling it blowing off steam. The line went cold. When Wallace spoke again, his voice was stone. You're not from around here, are you, Mr. Kane? No. Then let me give you some friendly advice. Dust Haven's a small town. We take care of our own. We don't need outsiders stirring up trouble. Especially not bikers with attitudes. The call ended. Damon stood there, phone in hand, staring at Marina's car. Then he pulled up his contacts and scrolled to Rico's number. Time to call the club, he typed. All of them. Rico answered on the first ring. Talk to me. Damon turned away from the diner, lowering his voice even though no one was around. Remember that waitress I texted you about? The one who helped Theo? Yeah, the one who got fired. What about her? She's missing. Vanished the same night. Sheriff's blowing it off, and the owner's acting like she just walked away mad. Damon paused, watching Theo trace patterns in the dust on the bike's fender. Rico, something's wrong here. I can feel it. Static crackled on the line. Rico had been Damon's VP for 8 years, rode with him for 12 before that. They'd been through enough to know when the other man's gut was talking. What do you need? I need people asking questions. I need eyes that the locals can't ignore. This sheriff, Wallace, he knows Carl Maddox. I can hear it in how he talks. They're protecting each other. You think the owner did something to her? Damon glanced back at the diner. The closed sign looked too convenient, too quick. I think she helped my kid, got fired for it, and now she's gone. I think that's enough to look deeper. How deep? Deep enough that they can't sweep it under the rug. Rico was quiet for a moment. Damon could almost hear him thinking, calculating. You're talking about bringing in the network. All of it. The Iron Wolves had chapters in 7 states, Nevada, California, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon. Not the biggest club, not the most infamous, but connected. Respected. When they rolled, people noticed. Damon, if we do this, if we put out the call, we're talking serious numbers. Could be 200 bikes. Could be more. Good. You sure about this? We show up that heavy, it's going to make waves. Law enforcement, media, the whole thing. Damon looked at Theo, who'd pulled out the napkin Marina gave him and was smoothing it carefully against his knee. The sun symbol caught the light. She helped my son when nobody else would, Damon said quietly. And then she got punished for it. Now she's missing and nobody's looking. Yeah, Rico. I'm sure. All right. I'll start making calls. How long you staying in the area? As long as it takes. Give me 24 hours. And Damon? Keep your head down until we get there. Don't do anything stupid. Never do. Rico snorted. Right. Call you back in an hour. The line went dead. By noon, Damon's phone was vibrating every 10 minutes. Rico had activated the phone tree, every chapter president, every road captain, every member who'd ever owed the Iron Wolves a favor. The message was simple: Waitress missing after helping club president's son. Sheriff's Department unresponsive. Owner suspected. Need presence at Dust Haven Diner, Nevada. Keep it clean, keep it legal, keep it visible. The responses flooded in. Sacramento chapter rolling out in 2 hours. 15 bikes confirmed. Ghost. Flagstaff can have 20 there by tomorrow morning. Maria. Portland's a long haul but we're coming. 30 riders, maybe more. Jackson, Hammer, Price. Reno chapter already close. We can be there tonight. Deshaun. Damon sat in the motel room, reading each message, his chest tight with something he couldn't quite name. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. These people didn't know Marina. They'd never met her. But they understood the code: you protect the ones who protect yours. Theo sat on the bed beside him, coloring. He'd drawn the sun symbol 4 more times, each one slightly different. Some had more rays. Some were darker. One had a small square around it, just like Marina's original. Why do you keep drawing that, buddy? Damon asked. Theo didn't answer. He just tapped the paper. 1, 2, 3. Important. Damon's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica Torres, Marina's roommate. Someone told me you were asking about her at the sheriff's office. Can we talk? Damon responded immediately, yes. Where? There's a gas station off Highway 50, about 10 miles east of town. Neutral ground. 1 hour? I'll be there. The gas station was exactly what Damon expected: 2 pumps, a convenience store with barred windows, and a hand-painted sign that said, "Cold beer." Jessica was waiting in a white Camry, engine running, sunglasses on despite being parked in the shade. Damon pulled up beside her. Theo stayed on the bike, headphones on, playing a game on Damon's old tablet. Jessica rolled down her window. She was maybe 30, with dyed red hair and exhausted eyes. You're the biker. Damon Kane. I was there when Marina got fired. Carl's saying she quit. That she got mad and walked off. Jessica's voice cracked. But Marina wouldn't just leave. Not without her phone. Not without telling me. We've been friends since high school. What did the sheriff say when you reported her missing? Jessica laughed bitterly. He took my statement and told me to give it time. Said Marina was probably embarrassed about losing her job and needed space. When I pushed back, he got annoyed. Told me I was being dramatic. You don't believe that? Hell no, I don't believe that. Marina loved that job. She was saving up for nursing school. She wouldn't just throw it all away. Jessica pulled off her sunglasses, and Damon saw the tears. Something happened to her. I know it did. And Carl Maddox knows what. Damon pulled out his phone and showed her Carl's Facebook post. I run MY business MY way. Jessica's face went white. He posted that last night? 11:30. 3 hours after you reported Marina missing. That son of a bitch. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. What are you going to do? Damon looked east, toward the highway, toward the routes that would soon be filled with motorcycles converging from every direction. I'm going to make sure everyone's watching, he said. So they can't hide what they did. Jessica nodded slowly. How many bikers are coming? Enough. Good. She put her sunglasses back on. Because Wallace and Carl? They're old friends. Went to high school together. Carl donates to Wallace's re-election campaigns every year. Nobody in this town will stand up to them. Then we'll bring people who will. As Damon rode back toward town, his phone lit up again. Counts over 200 bikes confirmed. More coming. Rico. And below that, this is gonna be big, brother. Real big. Damon smiled grimly. Good. That evening, Damon sat on the motel bed staring at the napkin for the 20th time. Theo was in the shower, humming one of his repetitive melodies, the same 5 notes over and over. Through the bathroom door, Damon could hear the water running, could picture his son's exact routine: 2 minutes under the spray, step back, count to 10, 2 more minutes, done. Every time. Same pattern. Patterns. Theo lived by them. Damon smoothed the napkin flat against the nightstand. The sun symbol stared back at him, simple, clean, deliberate. Marina had drawn it in blue pen, the kind waitresses used to write down orders. The sun had 8 rays, evenly spaced. Inside the rays was a perfect circle. And around the whole thing, a square. A sun in a box. Damon had assumed it was just something kind, something to calm a scared kid. But now, looking at it under the lamplight, he wasn't so sure. The lines were too precise. Marina had been fired, humiliated, watched by Carl the entire time. She wouldn't have had time to draw something elaborate. This had taken maybe 10 seconds, tops. So why make it so exact? The shower cut off. 3 minutes later, Theo emerged in his Iron Wolves pajamas, a birthday gift from Rico that Theo refused to sleep without. His hair was still damp, sticking up in odd angles. "Hey, buddy," Damon patted the bed. "Come here for a second." Theo climbed up, settling cross-legged beside his father. His eyes immediately went to the napkin. "You've been drawing this a lot," Damon said carefully. "The sun. Just like Marina drew it." Theo nodded. His fingers reached out, hovering over the napkin without touching it. "Can you tell me why? Why this one's important?" Theo's hand moved, one finger extending to tap the drawing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then he did something Damon hadn't expected. He tapped different parts, first the sun itself, then the square around it. Sun, square, sun, square. A rhythm. "The sun and the box," Damon said slowly. "They go together?" Tap, tap, tap. "Yes." Damon's mind raced. He pulled out his phone and opened Google Maps, zooming in on Dust Haven and the surrounding area. He'd been thinking about this wrong. Marina hadn't drawn a sun in a box for comfort. She'd drawn a message. But what? He scrolled through the map slowly, looking for anything that matched. A park with a sun symbol? A business? Nothing jumped out. The area around Dust Haven was mostly desert, a few scattered ranches, some storage facilities. Storage. Damon's thumb froze over the screen. There. About 15 miles outside town, past the diner, deeper into the desert. A small icon with a label, Sundrop Storage. Sundrop. Sunday. His heart started hammering. He zoomed in, clicking on the icon. A grainy photo appeared, a chain-link fence, metal storage units painted tan to match the desert, and a sign. The sign had a logo, a bright yellow sun inside a square frame. Exactly like Marina's drawing. "Theo," Damon's voice came out hoarse. "Look at this." He held the phone where Theo could see it. His son's eyes locked onto the image immediately. His whole body went still, that eerie focus he got when something clicked in his mind. Then Theo tapped the screen. Once, twice, 3 times. "That's it, isn't it? That's what Marina was trying to tell us." Tap, tap, tap. Damon pulled Theo close, pressing a kiss to the top of his head. "You're so damn smart, you know that?" Theo hummed, the same 5 notes from the shower. Damon looked back at the phone, at the satellite view of Sundrop storage. It was isolated, surrounded by nothing but scrub and sand. The kind of place you could scream and nobody would hear. The kind of place you could hide someone. His phone buzzed. Another update from Rico, first wave arrives tomorrow, 11 a.m. Reno chapter plus Sacramento. Flagstaff rolling in by afternoon. You need anything before then? Damon hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Every instinct told him to drive out to that storage facility right now, tonight, and see what was there. But Rico's voice echoed in his head, don't do anything stupid. If he went alone and found nothing, he'd look paranoid. If he went alone and found something, he might contaminate evidence. And if he went alone and walked into a trap? He had Theo to think about. Damon typed back, found a lead. Storage facility called Sundrop, 15 miles out. Marina left Theo a clue pointing to it. Need to check it out, but I'm waiting for backup. Can you get here sooner? The response came in seconds, already on my bike. I'll be there by midnight. Don't move until I arrive. I mean it, Damon. Copy that. Damon set the phone down and looked at Theo, who was drawing again. This time, the sun had a face, 2 dots for eyes, a curved line for a smile. Marina's face, maybe. The face of someone who'd helped when she didn't have to. We're going to find her, buddy, Damon said quietly. Because of you. Because you paid attention when nobody else did. Theo didn't respond, just kept drawing. But his shoulders relaxed slightly, and that was enough. At 11:47 p.m., Damon heard the rumble of a motorcycle pulling into the motel parking lot. He looked out the window and saw Rico dismounting, tall, broad-shouldered, gray streaking through his black beard. The man looked exhausted but alert. Damon stepped outside, closing the door quietly behind him. Theo was finally asleep. Show me, Rico said without preamble. Damon pulled up the map on his phone, pointing out Sundrop storage. Marina drew this symbol and gave it to Theo right before she disappeared. Same logo as the storage place. It's owned by, he'd looked this up an hour ago, CM Holdings LLC. Care to guess who the CM stands for? Carl Maddox. Bingo. Rico stared at the screen, his jaw working. Could be coincidence. Could be. But my son doesn't think so, and Theo doesn't miss details. No, he doesn't. Rico handed the phone back. We go tomorrow. Daylight. And we bring witnesses, other writers, maybe even Jessica. We live stream the whole thing if we have to. Make it impossible for them to cover it up. Agreed. Until then, you sleep. I'll take first watch. Damon wanted to argue, but he knew better. Rico had that look, the one that said the discussion was over. Thanks for coming, brother. Rico clapped him on the shoulder. You'd do the same for me. Now get inside before I change my mind about waiting until morning. Damon went back into the room, checking on Theo one more time. His son slept curled around the napkin, holding it like a treasure. Tomorrow, they'd follow Marina's message. Tomorrow, the truth would come out. The sun was barely up when Damon walked into the Dust Haven Sheriff's office. Rico had argued against it, said they should wait for the full convoy, go straight to Sundrop storage with numbers behind them. But Damon needed to do this right. Legal. By the book. One more chance for the system to work before they forced it to. The office was small, just 3 rooms visible from the front desk. Faded wanted posters lined the walls alongside photos of Sheriff Wallace shaking hands with local business owners. In one photo, Wallace had his arm around Carl Maddox, both men grinning at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. A deputy looked up from her computer, young and disinterested. Help you? I need to speak with Sheriff Wallace. It's about Marina Colby. The deputy's expression didn't change. Sheriff's busy. You can file a report with me. I'd rather speak with him directly. And I'd rather be in Cabo, but here we are. She turned back to her screen. Like I said, you can file a report or you can leave. Before Damon could respond, a door opened behind the desk. Sheriff Wallace stepped out, coffee mug in hand, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. He was maybe 55, with a gray crew cut and the kind of face that had probably been handsome once but had hardened over the years. His eyes landed on Damon, and something flickered across them. Recognition, maybe. Or annoyance. You're the one who called yesterday, Wallace said. Kane, right? That's right. Thought I told you we had it handled. With respect, Sheriff, I don't think you do. Damon kept his voice level, professional. Marina Colby's been missing for 48 hours. Her car's still at the diner. Her phone's off. Her roommate's terrified. And from what I can tell, nobody's actually looking for her. Wallace took a slow sip of coffee. That's a serious accusation. It's an observation. Well, here's my observation, Mr. Kane. Wallace set his mug down on the deputy's desk with a deliberate thunk. You're a biker from out of state who happened to be at the diner when an employee quit her job. Now you're playing detective, harassing local law enforcement, and stirring up trouble in a community you don't belong to. She didn't quit. She was fired. I watched it happen. Mr. Maddox disputes that. Of course he does. Wallace's jaw tightened. Are you calling a respected local business owner a liar? I'm saying what I saw. Carl Maddox fired Marina in front of multiple witnesses because she helped my son during a panic attack. Then she disappeared the same night. That's not a coincidence. You know what I think? Wallace stepped closer, and Damon caught the deliberate intimidation in his posture. I think you're one of those types who sees conspiracies everywhere. Young woman has a bad day at work, takes off to clear her head, and suddenly it's a crime scene. Her phone's dead. Her car's abandoned. Maybe she wanted it to look that way. Ever think of that? Wallace crossed his arms. Marina Colby has a history of being dramatic. Emotional. Her last boyfriend filed a complaint about her showing up at his house unannounced. She's got college debt up to her eyeballs. Maybe she needed an exit strategy. Damon felt heat rising in his chest. You're blaming her. I'm considering all possibilities. That's good police work. Good police work would be checking Carl Maddox's storage facility. The room went very quiet. Wallace's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. What storage facility? Sundrop Storage. 15 miles east. Owned by CM Holdings, Carl Maddox's company. Damon watched Wallace carefully. Marina left my son a drawing. A sun in a square. Same logo as Sundrop. She was trying to tell us something. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Wallace said, but his voice had an edge now. You think a waitress drew a picture for your kid and that's somehow evidence? You think that gives you the right to point fingers at a man who's lived in this town for 30 years? I think it's worth investigating. Well, lucky for Mr. Maddox, you're not a cop. Wallace moved back behind the desk, deliberately putting distance between them. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to leave my office. You're going to get on your motorcycle. And you're going to ride out of Dust Haven before you cause any more problems. And if I don't? Wallace smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then I'll find a reason to arrest you. Disturbing the peace. Harassment. Take your pick. And your son? He glanced toward the window, where Damon had left Theo waiting on the bike. Well, CPS gets called when parents get arrested. You want that? Damon's fists clenched. It took everything in him not to lunge across the desk. That's what I thought. Wallace picked up his coffee again. You seem like a decent father, Kane. So be smart. This isn't your town. This isn't your business. Go home. Damon pulled out his phone slowly, deliberately. Do you know what this is, Sheriff? Wallace frowned. A phone. A recording device. Damon held it up so Wallace could see the screen, the voice memo app, the timer running, the red dot indicating it was still recording. I've been recording since I walked in. Every word you just said. Every threat. Every dismissal. Wallace's face went red. You can't. Actually, I can. Nevada's a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm part of. Damon saved the file and pocketed his phone. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to leave, just like you asked. But I'm not leaving town. And in about 6 hours, 200 bikers are going to arrive in Dust Haven. They're going to park outside that diner. They're going to ask questions. And they're going to make sure the whole country is watching when the truth comes out. You're threatening me? I'm informing you. There's a difference. Damon turned toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Sheriff? You might want to call your friend Carl. Tell him the clock's ticking. He walked out before Wallace could respond. Outside, Theo was sitting on the bike, tablet in hand, headphones on. He looked up when Damon approached, reading his father's expression with that uncanny accuracy he had. Everything okay? Theo's voice was small. Yeah, buddy. Everything's fine. Damon straddled the bike and started the engine. But we're about to make some noise. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Damon saw Wallace standing in the office window, phone pressed to his ear. Making a call. Probably to Carl. Good. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Because by this afternoon, the whole world would be watching Dust Haven. And there would be nowhere left to hide. They heard them before they saw them. A low rumble that started like distant thunder, growing steadily until the ground itself seemed to vibrate. Damon stood in the motel parking lot with Theo, Rico beside him, all three watching the eastern highway. 11:04 a.m. The first wave crested the hill, a line of motorcycles stretching across both lanes, moving in tight formation. Harleys, Indians, Triumphs, all gleaming chrome and leather. The Reno chapter led the pack, Deshawn at the front, his iron wolves colors unmistakable even from a distance. Behind them came Sacramento. Then another group Damon didn't immediately recognize, Fresno, maybe, or Stockton. The rumble became a roar. Theo pressed his hands over his ears, but he was smiling. He understood what this meant. Jesus, Rico breathed. That's got to be 70 bikes right there. More coming, Damon said, checking his phone. The group chat was exploding with updates. Flagstaff chapter 40 minutes out. 23 riders. Phoenix sent reinforcements. 15 more bikes. Vegas chapter rolling with 30. ETA 1 hour. Portland crew stopped for gas. Still coming. 28 bikes. On and on. The numbers kept climbing. Deshawn pulled into the motel lot first, killing his engine and dismounting in one smooth motion. He was a big man, 6'3", arms like tree trunks, with a salt and pepper beard and eyes that had seen too much. He'd been riding since before Damon was born. Brother, Deshawn pulled Damon into a brief, hard embrace. Hell of a reason to call us out. Appreciate you coming. You kidding? Woman helps your kid, gets fired, then vanishes. Deshawn shook his head. That's exactly why we ride. Where we heading? The diner. We make our presence known first, nice and visible. Then we move to Sundrop Storage. The place on your pin? That's the one. More bikes poured in, the parking lot filled, then overflowed onto the street. Riders dismounted, stretching road-weary legs, greeting old friends, passing around water bottles and cigarettes. The air smelled like gasoline and leather and hot asphalt. A news van appeared at 11:47. Then another at noon. By 12:30, there were 4 media crews setting up cameras, reporters doing stand-ups with the growing motorcycle convoy behind them. A helicopter circled overhead, probably local news. Damon. A woman's voice cut through the noise. Jessica Torres pushed through the crowd, her phone held up, filming everything. This is incredible. How many are coming? Still counting. The sheriff's office is freaking out. I drove past 20 minutes ago. Wallace had 3 state trooper cars parked outside. They're calling in backup. Good, Rico said. Let them watch. At 1:15 p.m., the Flagstaff chapter arrived, led by Maria "Snake" Cordova, a woman who'd been riding longer than most of the men and commanded respect everywhere she went. She brought 23 riders and a semi-truck with a mobile kitchen. Figured people would get hungry, she said, directing her crew to start setting up. We're going to be here a while, right? However long it takes, Damon confirmed. By 2 o'clock, the count had passed 200 bikes. By 3, it hit 300. They lined the streets of Dust Haven like a metallic river, chrome and steel and defiance. Some riders held signs, "Find Marina, justice for the disappeared, we don't forget." The Dust Haven diner sat at the center of it all, its parking lot now completely surrounded by motorcycles and riders. Carl Maddox's truck was visible through the fence, still there, hadn't moved all day. He's holed up inside, Deshawn reported, returning from a perimeter check. Lights are on but nobody's answering the door. I spotted him through a window though. He's on the phone. Calling his lawyers, probably, Rico muttered. A sheriff's cruiser pulled up at 3:30, not Wallace, but 2 deputies looking severely outnumbered. One of them approached Damon carefully, hand near his sidearm but not touching it. "Sir, I need you to disperse this gathering. You're blocking traffic and creating a public disturbance." Damon looked around at the hundreds of riders, most of whom were sitting peacefully on their bikes or standing in groups talking. "We're not blocking anything. The road's still open. We're just visiting. This is intimidation. This is awareness." Damon gestured to the media crews. "We're here because Marina Colby disappeared and nobody's looking for her. We're here to make sure that changes. The sheriff's department is investigating. The sheriff's department is covering up." Damon pulled out his phone, playing the recording from that morning. Wallace's voice came through clearly, "You're going to leave my office. Or I'll find a reason to arrest you." The deputy's face went pale. "That's your boss," Damon said quietly. "Threatening a witness. Protecting Carl Maddox. So no, officer, we're not dispersing. We're staying right here until someone with actual authority starts doing their job." The deputy looked at his partner, then at the sea of bikers, then back at Damon. I'll relay your message." They retreated to their cruiser and drove off. At 4 p.m., the Portland chapter rolled in, 28 bikes led by Jackson "Hammer" Price, a man with scars on his arms and a Purple Heart on his vest. Right behind them came a surprise, the Desert Riders, an independent club from Utah, 50 strong. "Heard what you're doing," their president said, shaking Damon's hand. "We're not iron wolves, but we ride for the same reasons. Mind if we join? More the merrier." By 5 p.m., the count broke 500. By 6 o'clock, it hit 700. News helicopters circled like vultures. National media had picked up the story, "Massive biker convoy descends on small Nevada town," Twitter was exploding. Facebook live streams showed the scene from a dozen angles. And through it all, the diner remained closed, Carl Maddox invisible behind locked doors. At 6:47, Damon's phone rang. Unknown number. Yeah. This is State Police Detective Sarah Chen. I'm en route to Dust Haven with a team. We've been assigned to investigate Marina Colby's disappearance. I'll be there in 90 minutes. Can you keep your people peaceful until then? Damon felt something tight in his chest finally loosen. We've been peaceful this whole time, Detective. I know. I've been watching the feeds. I just need you to stay that way. We will. Good. And Mr. Kane? Thank you for not letting this disappear. The call ended. Damon turned to find Rico, Deshawn, Maria, and a dozen other chapter presidents waiting. State police are coming, he announced. Real investigators. We did it. A cheer went up, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. But Damon wasn't celebrating yet. They still hadn't found Marina. And Sundrop Storage was still waiting. Detective Sarah Chen arrived at exactly 8:16 p.m. in an unmarked sedan, followed by 3 state police vehicles and a forensics van. She was 40-something, short black hair, wearing a blazer despite the desert heat. Her eyes swept across the sea of motorcycles with professional detachment. Damon met her at the diner's entrance, Rico and Jessica Torres beside him. Detective Chen, Damon extended his hand. Thanks for coming. Let's save the gratitude until we actually find something, she shook his hand firmly. I need to hear everything. From the beginning. They moved to Maria's mobile kitchen, where folding tables had been set up. Damon walked Chen through it all, Theo's panic attack, Marina's kindness, Carl's rage, the firing. Then the disappearance, the sheriff's dismissal, the Facebook post, the napkin clue. Chen took notes, her expression unreadable. And you recorded your conversation with Sheriff Wallace? Damon played the audio. Chen's jaw tightened as Wallace's threats filled the air. That's going in my report, she said grimly. What else? Marina's car is still here. Her belongings are inside. Jessica pulled out her phone, showing photos. Her phone's been off since Saturday night. She had dinner plans with me Sunday, she never misses plans. Something happened to her. And Carl Maddox owns a storage facility called Sundrop, Damon added, showing Chen the napkin and the matching logo. Marina left this for my son right before she disappeared. Chen studied the drawing. It's circumstantial, but it's interesting, she stood. First things first. I need to talk to Carl Maddox. Where is he? Inside the diner. Hasn't come out all day. Chen walked to the front door and knocked. Hard. Mr. Maddox. State Police Detective Chen. Open the door. Nothing. She knocked again. Sir, you can open this door voluntarily or I'll get a warrant. Your choice. A full minute passed. Then the lock clicked. Carl Maddox stood in the doorway, looking smaller than Damon remembered. His face was flushed, sweat staining his collar. Behind him, the diner was dark except for a single light over the register. I already talked to Sheriff Wallace, Carl said. I don't have to. Sheriff Wallace isn't running this investigation. I am. Chen held up her badge. We can do this here or at the station. But we're doing it. Carl swallowed hard. Fine. Here. They moved inside. Chen gestured for Damon and Jessica to wait outside, but she left the door open. Through the windows, Damon could see her sitting across from Carl, notebook open. Tell me about Saturday night, Chen began. When did you last see Marina Colby? I don't remember exactly. Evening sometime. She quit and left. Witnesses say you fired her. Carl shifted in his seat. She was insubordinate. I asked her to leave. Same thing. What time did she leave the premises? I don't know. 6:30? 7? I wasn't watching the clock. Her car's still in your parking lot. Not my problem. Maybe she got a ride. Chen wrote something down. Did you speak to her after you fired her? A pause. Too long. No. You're sure? Yes. Because I'm going to pull your phone records, Mr. Maddox. And if you're lying to me right now, that's obstruction. Carl's face reddened. Okay, fine. I may have called her. Later that night. To apologize. To see if she wanted her job back. And what did she say? She didn't answer. Convenient, Chen leaned forward. Where were you Saturday night between 8 p.m. and midnight? Here. Doing paperwork. Anyone verify that? I was alone. What about your storage facility? Sundrop Storage. You ever take Marina there? Carl's eyes widened slightly. What? No. Why would I? Simple question, Mr. Maddox. No. She's never been there. That's just storage. For restaurant supplies and equipment. So you wouldn't mind if we took a look? You'd need a warrant. I can get one, Chen stood. In fact, I think I will. Stay in town, Mr. Maddox. We'll be talking again soon. She walked out, leaving Carl sitting alone in his darkened diner. Outside, Chen pulled Damon aside. His story's falling apart already. The timing's wrong, his body language is screaming guilt, and he's way too defensive about that storage facility. Can you search it tonight? Damon asked. Working on the warrant now, but judges are slow. Probably morning, she glanced at the assembled writers. Think your people can maintain this presence overnight? They'll stay as long as it takes. Good. Because the second this dies down, evidence starts disappearing, Chen's phone buzzed. She checked it and smiled. Well. That was fast. One of my officers just interviewed the diner's supply delivery driver. Guy named Ron Paxton. He was here Saturday night. What did he see? He says he arrived around 7:30 to drop off produce. Heard raised voices coming from Carl's office. A woman crying. Then silence. Chen's eyes were hard. He knocked on the office door to get Carl to sign for the delivery. Carl came out looking flustered, shirt untucked, sweating. Told him to leave the boxes and go. Jessica gasped. Marina was still here. She didn't leave when he fired her. That's what I'm thinking, Chen made another note. I'm interviewing every staff member tonight. Someone knows something. Over the next 3 hours, Chen's team worked through Carl's employees. Most were terrified, unwilling to talk at first. But with lawyers present and immunity offered, the stories started coming. A line cook named David admitted he'd heard Carl and Marina arguing in the office. She was saying something about reporting something. Carl was yelling at her to mind her own business. A dishwasher named Teresa said she'd seen Marina's bag in her locker Sunday morning. It was weird because Carl said she'd quit and stormed out. But why would she leave her stuff? And finally, at 11 p.m., a young waiter named Kevin broke down and told the truth. Carl made us all lie, he sobbed. He said if anyone asked, Marina quit and left angry. He said if we told the truth, he'd fire us and make sure we never worked in this county again. But I saw him drag her toward the back hallway. She was trying to pull away. She looked scared. What time was this? Chen asked. Right after closing. Maybe 8 o'clock. Where does that back hallway go? To the rear exit. And Carl's personal parking spot. Chen looked at Damon. He took her out the back. Put her in his vehicle. Nobody saw because everyone else had left. Sundrop Storage, Damon said. That's where he took her. Chen nodded. I'm calling the judge right now. We're getting that warrant tonight. The warrant came through at 1:47 a.m. Chen gathered her team in the diner's parking lot, now illuminated by portable floodlights the bikers had brought in. Damon stood with Rico, Deshawn, and Maria, watching as the detective laid out her plan. We move on Sundrop storage at first light, Chen announced. I want everything documented, everything by the book. If Marina's there, I want whoever put her there buried under evidence so thick they'll never see daylight again. What about Carl? Rico asked. He's not going anywhere. I've got an officer watching his house, Chen checked her watch. We're 4 hours from sunrise. Everyone get rest while you can. But before anyone could move, headlights swept across the lot. A silver Lexus pulled up, parking at the periphery. A man in his 60s emerged, wearing an expensive suit despite the hour. He looked nervous. I need to speak with whoever's in charge, he called out. Chen stepped forward. I'm Detective Chen, State Police. And you are? Robert Henley. I'm a silent partner in the diner. 20% owner, his voice shook. I need to talk to you. In private. Chen's eyes narrowed. About? Henley glanced at the crowd of bikers, at the media vans, at the diner where Carl was presumably still hiding. About Marina. About what really happened. But not here. Please. Chen gestured to her sedan. Get in. Damon moved to follow, but Chen held up a hand. Stay close. I might need you. They watched through the car windows as Henley talked, his hands gesturing frantically. Chen's expression went from skeptical to alert to furious in the span of 5 minutes. Finally, she stepped out of the car holding a USB drive. Change of plans, she announced. We're not waiting until morning. What is that? Damon asked. Security footage. From the diner, Chen's voice was tight. Apparently Carl isn't the only one with access to the system. Henley's been keeping his own copies, insurance, he called it, in case Carl ever tried to screw him over. He's had them stored remotely for 2 years. Does it show Saturday night? Most of it, Chen's jaw clenched. But there's a problem. The last 60 seconds are missing. Carl deleted them from the main system, and Henley's remote backup was on a 15-second delay. We lost the final minute. Show us what you have, Rico said. Chen looked around at the assembled writers, at Jessica Torres with her phone out, at the media crews still filming from a distance. Not here. Too many eyes. But you, she pointed at Damon, you and the roommate come with me. You deserve to see this. They moved to Chen's mobile command center, a modified RV parked 2 blocks away. Inside, Chen loaded the USB drive and pulled up the footage on a laptop. The timestamp read Saturday, 7:52 p.m. The angle showed the diner's main floor from above the register. Carl was visible near his office door, arms crossed, face red. Then Marina appeared from the back hallway, her bag over her shoulder, eyes puffy from crying. She's leaving, Jessica whispered. See? She was trying to leave. But Marina didn't make it to the front door. Carl moved quickly, grabbing her arm. Marina tried to pull away. Carl said something, no audio, but his expression was threatening. Marina shook her head, reaching for her phone. Carl snatched it from her hand. Son of a bitch, Damon breathed. The footage continued. Carl pointed toward his office. Marina backed away, shaking her head more vigorously. Carl grabbed her by both shoulders and physically turned her around, marching her toward the back hallway. That's assault, Chen said coldly. Clear as day. Marina struggled, twisting in Carl's grip. For a moment it looked like she might break free, but Carl was bigger, stronger. He forced her through a door marked, "Private, Storage." The timestamp rolled forward. 7:54 p.m. 7:55 p.m. Neither of them reappeared. At 7:58 p.m., Carl emerged alone. His shirt was untucked, hair disheveled. He looked directly at the camera, seemed to calculate something, then walked to the register and reached underneath. The screen went black. "That's where he shut off the main system," Chen explained. Henley's remote backup kept recording for another 15 seconds, but then it cuts out too. "What happened in those 15 seconds?" Jessica asked, her voice breaking. Chen fast-forwarded to 8:02 p.m., when Henley's backup resumed. The screen showed the diner floor again, empty now, lights dimmed. No Carl. No Marina. "The back hallway," Damon said suddenly. "Where does it go?" "According to the floor plan, there's a storage room, a bathroom, and a rear exit." Chen pulled up building schematics on another screen. "The rear exit leads to a loading area where Carl parks his truck." "So he took her out the back," Rico said. "Put her in his truck while the camera was off. By the time it came back on, they were gone." Chen nodded grimly. "That's the theory. And look at this," she pulled up cell phone tower data. Marina's phone pinged off a tower here at the diner at 7:53 p.m. Then nothing. It went dead. "He took her phone," Jessica said. "We saw him grab it. And he either destroyed it or it's wherever she is." Chen closed the laptop. "But here's the thing, there's one frame I want you to look at again." She rewound to 7:57 p.m., just before Carl shut down the camera. She paused it and zoomed in on the background, near the window. There, barely visible in the corner of the frame, was a reflection in the glass. It showed the back hallway, and something else. A sign. Partially visible. Yellow letters on a dark background. "Can you enhance that?" Damon leaned closer. Chen worked the controls, sharpening the image. The letters became clearer. Sundro. The rest was cut off by the edge of the frame. "Sundrop," Jessica breathed. "But why would there be a Sundrop sign inside the diner?" "There wouldn't be," Chen said. "But there might be paperwork. Invoices. Keys." She stood abruptly. "Henley, get back in here." The silent partner stumbled back into the RV, looking like he might vomit. "The storage room in the back hallway," Chen demanded. "What does Carl keep in there?" I don't know. I've never been back there. Carl handles all the day-to-day operations." "Guess." Henley swallowed. "Supplies? Files? He's very protective of that room. Always keeps it locked. I assumed it was just restaurant stuff." "Or evidence," Rico muttered. Chen grabbed her radio. "All units, we're moving on the diner now. I want that back storage room opened immediately. Probable cause, evidence of kidnapping and assault." She turned to Damon. "You were right about the clue. Marina was trying to tell your son where Carl was taking her. She saw something, paperwork, keys, something, that connected to Sundrop storage. And she left you that drawing because she knew." "Knew what?" Jessica asked. "That she wasn't going to get another chance to ask for help," Damon said quietly. They rushed back to the diner. Carl must have seen them coming because he met them at the door, a lawyer beside him now, expensive suit, slicked back hair. "My client has cooperated fully," the lawyer began. "Any further harassment?" "Your client is under arrest for assault and kidnapping," Chen pushed past them both. "Officers, secure him." "You can't," Carl started, but two state troopers already had him in cuffs. Chen led her team to the back hallway. The storage room door was locked. "Bolt cutters," she ordered. The lock broke with a sharp snap. Inside, the room was cramped and cluttered, boxes of napkins, cleaning supplies, file cabinets. But on the wall, clearly visible, was a corkboard covered in papers. And right in the center, pinned with a red thumbtack, was a key ring with a tag. The tag had a Sun logo. Below it, handwritten, Sundrop Storage, Unit 47. Chen photographed everything, then carefully removed the key ring. Got him. She turned to Damon. Call your people. Tell them we're moving now. I want every bike that can roll ready to convoy to Sundrop Storage in 10 minutes. It's 2 in the morning. Marina's been missing for 3 days. Every second counts. Chen's eyes were fierce. We're getting her back. Tonight. The convoy rolled out at 2:34 a.m. Detective Chen led in her sedan, followed by 3 state police vehicles and the forensics van. Behind them came the wave, more than 800 motorcycles stretching back 2 miles along the desert highway, headlights cutting through the darkness like a moving river of stars. Damon rode near the front with Theo behind him. His son hadn't wanted to stay at the motel, had insisted with unusual force that he needed to be there. Marina needs me, he'd said, and Damon couldn't argue with that. Rico rode to Damon's left, Deshawn to his right. Behind them, Maria led the next wave, then Jackson Hammer and the Portland crew. The rumble of engines was deafening, purposeful, righteous. Jessica Torres followed in her Camry, live-streaming everything. 3 news vans trailed the convoy, their cameras capturing every moment. The turnoff to Sundrop Storage appeared 15 miles outside Dust Haven, marked by a weathered sign barely visible in the darkness. Chen's brake lights flashed and the convoy slowed, turning onto a dirt road that stretched into empty desert. Stay back, Chen's voice crackled over the radio frequency they'd all switched to. I want law enforcement going in first. But keep those cameras rolling. Document everything. The storage facility emerged from the darkness, a chain-link fence surrounding maybe 40 metal units painted tan to match the desert. A single floodlight illuminated the entrance gate, where a Sun logo hung crooked on the fence. Exactly like Marina's drawing. Chen's team stopped at the gate. Locked. She held up the key ring from the diner and tried each key until one clicked. The gate swung open with a rusty groan. The motorcycles formed a perimeter around the entire facility, headlights creating a ring of light that turned night into day. Media helicopters appeared overhead, spotlights sweeping across the scene. Unit 47, Chen called out, reading numbers as they passed each storage unit. 32, 38. 43-inch. They were in the back corner of the facility now, the most isolated section. The desert stretched endlessly beyond the fence. There, Chen pointed. Unit 47 sat alone, separated from its neighbors by 20 feet on each side. The metal door was secured with 2 padlocks, one standard, one heavy-duty. Chen approached slowly, her hand on her sidearm. 2 officers flanked her. The rest of her team spread out, securing the area. Marina Colby. Chen called out. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the Nevada State Police. If you can hear me, make a sound. Silence. Just the desert wind and the idle rumble of 800 motorcycles. Chen tried the first key from the ring. It didn't fit. The second one slid in smoothly. Click. The first padlock opened. The second lock took 3 tries, but finally turned. Chen removed both locks and handed them to a forensics tech. Then she gripped the door handle. If anyone's inside, she called again, we're opening the door now. Stay calm. You're safe. She pulled. The door rolled upward with a metallic screech. Darkness inside. Chen pulled out her flashlight, sweeping the beam across the interior. Damon held his breath, Theo's arms tightening around his waist. The light caught something in the back corner. A figure. Sitting. Hands bound. I've got her. Chen shouted. Medical. I need medical now. Everything happened at once. EMTs rushed forward with a stretcher and medical bags. Officers poured into the unit, documenting, photographing. Chen knelt beside the figure, carefully cutting zip ties with a knife. Marina? Marina, can you hear me? A weak voice, yes. The word sent electricity through the crowd. Damon felt Theo's whole body relax against his back. You're safe now, Chen said gently. We're getting you out of here. They brought her out on a stretcher, wrapped in thermal blankets. Marina was conscious but dehydrated, her face pale and drawn. Her lips were cracked, eyes sunken. But alive. Definitely alive. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in a collective release of breath, a wave of relief so powerful it was almost tangible. Jessica broke through the police line, running to the stretcher. Marina. Oh God, Marina. Jess? Marina's voice was hoarse. How did you? These people found you. All of them. They never stopped looking. Marina's eyes swept across the sea of motorcycles, the leather-clad riders, the media crews, the massive presence that had descended on this isolated desert lot. Tears spilled down her cheeks. The biker, she whispered. From the diner. His son. I'm here. Damon dismounted and approached the stretcher, Theo beside him. This is Theo. He figured out your clue. Marina looked at Theo, and despite everything, the trauma, the fear, the 3 days of captivity, she smiled. You understood. The son. Theo nodded, pulling out the napkin from his pocket. Still crumpled, still precious. He held it up so she could see. I'm sorry I couldn't draw better, Marina said. I had about 5 seconds before Carl saw me. I just hoped. I hoped you'd understand somehow. He did, Damon said, his voice thick. He absolutely did. The EMTs started loading Marina into the ambulance. Chen stopped them for just a moment. Marina, I need to ask, did Carl Maddox bring you here? Yes, Marina's voice hardened despite her exhaustion. Saturday night. After he fired me. I saw something I shouldn't have, cash drops in his office, packages I knew weren't restaurant supplies. When I said I should report it, he panicked. Grabbed me. Took my phone. Dragged me out the back and threw me in his truck. Did he hurt you? He slapped me when I tried to scream. Threatened to do worse if I didn't shut up. Marina's hands clenched into fists. He brought me here, tied me up, said he needed time to figure things out. He came back yesterday, brought water and a sandwich. Told me if I promised to keep quiet and leave town, he'd let me go. I told him to go to hell. That's when he stopped coming back, Chen said grimly. I thought, Marina's voice cracked. I thought no one would find me. That I'd die out here. But you left a clue, Theo said quietly. It was the most Damon had heard him speak to a stranger in months. You saved yourself. Marina reached out and squeezed Theo's hand. We saved each other, sweetheart. The EMTs loaded her into the ambulance. Jessica climbed in beside her, still filming, still documenting everything. As the ambulance pulled away, escorted by police vehicles, Chen turned to address the assembled riders. Media cameras captured every word. Thanks to this community, and I mean every single person here, we found Marina Colby alive. You refused to let her disappear. You refused to let corruption hide the truth. She paused. Carl Maddox is in custody and will face charges of kidnapping, assault, false imprisonment, and whatever else we can make stick. Sheriff Wallace is suspended pending investigation. And Marina is safe. The crowd roared, engines revving, air horns blasting, fists pumping. The sound rolled across the desert like thunder. Damon pulled Theo close. His son was crying silently, the way he did when emotions overwhelmed him, but he didn't have words for them. "You did good, buddy," Damon whispered. "So damn good." Theo just held up the napkin one more time, looking at Marina's sun's symbol in the light of 800 headlights. The sun was rising for real now, pink and gold spreading across the eastern horizon. A new day. A better one. The hospital waiting room filled slowly as dawn broke over Carson City. Damon sat with Theo, watching his son color in a donated activity book from the nurses' station. Around them, dozens of riders had followed the ambulance from Sundrop storage, refusing to leave until they knew Marina was truly okay. Detective Chen emerged from the emergency department at 6:47 a.m., looking exhausted but satisfied. "She's stable," Chen announced to the assembled group. "Dehydrated, malnourished, some bruising and minor lacerations, but no life-threatening injuries. Doctors want to keep her for observation, but she's going to be fine." The relief in the room was palpable. Jessica Torres, who'd been pacing for the last hour, finally sat down and put her head in her hands. "Can we see her?" Jessica asked. "Family only right now, but she specifically asked for you," Chen pointed at Jessica, "and for Damon and Theo." They followed Chen through the sterile corridors to a private room. Marina was propped up in bed, for in her arm, wearing a hospital gown. Her hair had been washed, face cleaned, but the dark circles under her eyes told the story of her ordeal. She brightened when she saw Theo. "Hey there, hero," Marina said softly. Theo approached shyly, still clutching the napkin. He held it out to her like an offering. Marina took it carefully, smoothing it against her blanket. "You kept it." "It was important," Theo said. "It was the most important thing I've ever drawn." Marina looked at Damon. "I had maybe 10 seconds while Carl was watching. I saw papers on his desk when he was yelling at me, invoices from Sundrop storage, keys, his handwriting everywhere. I knew if something happened to me, that's where I'd be." "Why didn't you just write it down?" Jessica asked. "He was standing right there. If he'd seen me write, Sundrop, or help, or anything obvious, he would have destroyed it. But a doodle for a scared kid?" Marina smiled sadly. "That seemed innocent enough. I just prayed someone would figure it out." "Theo figured it out in less than a day," Damon said proudly. Marina reached for Theo's hand. "You're the smartest person I've ever met, you know that?" Theo's cheeks flushed, but he didn't pull away. "Can you tell us what happened?" Chen asked gently, recorder in hand. "I need your statement for the case." Marina took a shaky breath. "Saturday night, after Carl fired me, I was getting my stuff from my locker. I walked past his office and saw him counting cash, a lot of cash, and putting it in a safe with these packages wrapped in brown paper. I knew it wasn't restaurant money. It was too much, and he was acting paranoid." "What made you think the packages were suspicious?" Chen asked. "Because one was open. I saw what looked like cartons of cigarettes inside, the kind with tax stamps from different states. I remembered reading about cargo theft from truck stops on I-80". Marina's voice steadied as she talked, the details helping her process. "Carl used to be a long-haul trucker. He still has connections. I think he's been receiving stolen goods and fencing them." Chen made notes. "That explains the cash. What happened next?" "He saw me in the doorway. Asked what I was looking at. I panicked and said something stupid like, 'Is everything okay?' That seems like a lot of money." Marina winced. "He exploded. Told me to mind my business. I said maybe I should report it. I didn't even mean it as a threat, I was just scared and trying to back out of the room. But he grabbed my arm, said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I never worked again. Worse than that." "Then what?" "I tried to call 911 on my phone. He ripped it out of my hands and threw it against the wall. The screen shattered." Marina's hands trembled. Then he dragged me to the storage room in the back. I fought, but he's so much bigger. He zip-tied my hands and ankles and locked me in there for almost an hour while he figured out what to do. Theo pressed closer to Damon, who wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders. I could hear him on the phone through the door, Marina continued. He was arguing with someone, I think Sheriff Wallace, based on what he was saying. Things like, I told you this would be a problem and, you need to back me up on this. When he came back, he said we were going for a ride. Did he tell you where you were going? No. He put duct tape over my mouth, threw a tarp over me in the back of his truck, and drove. It felt like forever but was probably 20 minutes. When we stopped, he pulled me out and I saw the Sundrop sign. Unit 47-inch. Marina's voice cracked. Chen paused the recording. Take your time, Chen said gently. Marina wiped her eyes. He threw me inside, cut the zip ties on my ankles but left my hands bound. Told me he needed time to think. Said if I cooperated and agreed to leave town and never speak about what I saw, he'd let me go. If not, she trailed off. If not? Chen prompted. He said the desert has a way of making people disappear. Jessica let out a small sob. Damon felt rage burning in his chest. He came back Sunday night with water and a granola bar. Asked if I'd made up my mind. I told him I'd report everything, the theft, the kidnapping, all of it. He got angry, said I was making a mistake, and left. I didn't see him again after that. He abandoned you, Chen said flatly. I think once the media attention started, once all those bikers showed up, he panicked. He couldn't risk coming back. Marina looked directly at Damon. You saved my life. All of you. If you hadn't made this public, if you hadn't brought everyone out there, he would have left me to die. We weren't going to let that happen, Damon said simply. Chen turned off the recorder. Carl Maddox is looking at kidnapping, false imprisonment, assault, and accessory to receiving stolen goods. Sheriff Wallace is suspended and under investigation for obstruction and conspiracy. We found text messages between them coordinating their stories. Good, Marina said fiercely. They deserve everything coming to them. A knock at the door interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in. Sorry, but there's about 50 motorcycles in the parking lot and they're asking if Marina's okay. They're making the other patients nervous. Marina laughed, a real laugh despite everything. Can you tell them thank you? And that I'm okay? I'll tell them, Damon said. But they're not leaving until you do. Fair warning. I wouldn't expect them to. The story exploded across national media within hours. By Monday afternoon, every major news network was running the headline, 1,000 bikers save missing waitress after corrupt sheriff cover-up. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all of them featured footage of the massive motorcycle convoy, the pre-dawn rescue at Sundrop storage, and Marina being carried out alive. Damon watched from the hospital cafeteria as a CNN anchor interviewed Deshawn via video call. So you rode all night from Reno because a waitress helped a club member's son? The anchor asked. That's exactly right, Deshawn said, his voice steady. Marina showed kindness when it wasn't required. She helped a child who was scared. Then she got punished for it and vanished. We weren't going to let that stand. That's what writing's about, protecting people who can't protect themselves. The anchor looked genuinely moved. And you mobilized hundreds of bikers in less than 24 hours? Over 1,000 by the end. We take care of our own. And Marina became one of our own the moment she helped Theo. By Tuesday morning, Carl Maddox's mugshot was everywhere. Orange jumpsuit, dead eyes, face slack with resignation. The charges kept mounting. Kidnapping in the first degree. False imprisonment. Assault and battery. Receiving stolen property. Witness intimidation. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. Detective Chen's investigation had uncovered everything. The stolen cigarette cartons in his storage unit, 14 pallets worth nearly $200,000. Text messages between Carl and Sheriff Wallace coordinating stories, discussing the Marina problem, planning how to discredit her if she came forward. Bank records showing cash deposits that didn't match the diner's revenue, $340,000 over 2 years, all structured to avoid federal reporting requirements. And most damning, footage from a traffic camera on Highway 50 showing Carl's truck heading towards Sundrop's storage at 8:14 p.m. Saturday night, right after the diner's cameras went dark. He's done, Chen told reporters at a press conference Tuesday afternoon. The evidence is overwhelming. His attorney's already talking plea deals, but I'm not interested. This man kidnapped a woman and left her to die in the desert. He's going to trial, and he's going to prison for a very long time. Sheriff Wallace fell next. By Wednesday, the Nevada Attorney General's office announced criminal charges: obstruction of justice, conspiracy, abuse of power, and failure to investigate. Wallace's own deputies testified against him, describing years of corruption and favoritism toward local business owners who donated to his campaigns. His 23-year career ended with him being led out of his own office in handcuffs, media cameras capturing every moment. The town of Dust Haven itself went through a reckoning. Residents who'd stayed silent for years started talking. Stories emerged of other employees Carl had intimidated, other complaints Wallace had buried, other instances where power had been abused and justice denied. A recall petition for the city council gained 3,000 signatures in 2 days. But the biggest story, the one that captured hearts across America, was Marina and Theo. On Thursday, Marina was released from the hospital. A crowd of bikers waited outside to escort her home, along with dozens of news crews. She emerged in borrowed clothes, jeans and an Iron Wolves t-shirt that Maria had given her, looking thin but determined. The first person she looked for was Theo. Damon had him waiting by the bike, holding a new drawing he'd made. This one showed Marina and Theo together, both smiling, with a sun above them shining freely, no box around it anymore. Marina knelt down to Theo's eye level, just like she had in the diner that first day. "Is that for me?" Theo nodded and handed it to her. "It's perfect," Marina whispered, tears streaming down her face. "It's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me." She pulled Theo into a gentle hug. He stiffened for just a moment. Hugs were hard for him, but then relaxed, returning it. The image went viral within minutes. A frightened waitress and an autistic boy who'd saved each other's lives, reunited surrounded by 1,000 bikers who'd refused to let evil win. That evening, Marina gave her first full interview from Jessica's apartment, Damon and Theo sitting beside her. "I want people to understand something," Marina said, looking directly into the camera. "What happened to me wasn't random. It happened because I witnessed a crime and because I helped someone when my boss thought I shouldn't. Carl Maddox didn't see me as a person, he saw me as a problem to eliminate." The interviewer leaned forward. "What would you say to other people in similar situations?" "I'd say don't stay silent. Don't let powerful people make you afraid." "And I'd say," Marina looked at the bikers gathered outside the apartment, their motorcycles lined up like a protective wall, "there are good people out there. People who will fight for you even when they don't know you. People who believe kindness matters. What's next for you?" Marina glanced at Theo, then at Damon. "I'm going back to school for nursing. I want to work with children, especially kids with special needs. Theo showed me how incredible these kids are, how much they notice that others miss. I want to be there for them the way I wish someone had been there for me." "And the diner?" "It's closed permanently. The health department found violations, the liquor board pulled the license, and Carl's assets are being seized." "Good riddance," Marina's voice hardened. "That place was built on fear and cruelty. I'm glad it's gone." The interviewer turned to Damon. "What about you? What made you care so much about a stranger? Damon looked at Theo, then back at the camera. She wasn't a stranger. She was someone who saw my son struggling and helped without being asked. That makes her family. And you don't abandon family. What's the message you want people to take from this? Damon considered for a moment. I think the message is simple: stand up. When you see something wrong, when you see someone being hurt or silenced, don't look away. Make noise. Bring people. Shine a light so bright that darkness has nowhere to hide. He paused, then smiled slightly. And if you hurt the kind, expect the thunder. The phrase became a rallying cry overnight. #expect the thunder trended worldwide. Motorcycle clubs across the country adopted it as a motto. But for Damon, Rico, and the hundreds of riders who'd converged on Dust Haven, it was never about glory or recognition. It was about a waitress who knelt beside a scared boy. And about making sure kindness was rewarded instead of punished. That was worth riding for. That was worth everything. 3 months later, the desert looked different. Damon pulled his Harley into the parking lot of a small community center outside Carson City, Theo riding behind him as always. The October sun was gentler now, the brutal summer heat faded into something almost pleasant. They'd made this trip every Saturday for the past 6 weeks. Inside the center, Marina was waiting in a bright room with colorful mats and sensory toys scattered across the floor. She wore scrubs now, pale blue with cartoon suns embroidered on the pocket, her nursing student uniform. Her hair was longer, healthier. The haunted look had faded from her eyes, replaced by something stronger. Right on time, Marina said, smiling as Theo bounded through the door. Wouldn't miss it, Damon replied. This was Marina's practicum project, a weekly therapeutic playgroup for children on the autism spectrum. She'd designed it herself, combining her nursing coursework with everything she'd learned from her brother and from Theo. 8 kids attended now, ages 6 to 12, and the waiting list kept growing. Theo had been her first participant. Her inspiration. Okay, everyone. Marina called out as the other children arrived with their parents. Today we're going to practice communication through art. Remember, there's no wrong way to express yourself. She moved through the room with natural confidence, kneeling beside each child, speaking their language, whether that was words, signs, or comfortable silence. Damon watched from the observation area, marveling at how she transformed her trauma into purpose. She's something else, isn't she? Rico's voice came from behind him. Damon turned to see his VP approaching with coffee, their Saturday ritual. She really is. How's Theo doing? Better than ever. He's talking more, initiating conversations with other kids. Marina's teaching him that it's okay to ask for help. Damon accepted the coffee gratefully. I think helping save her gave him confidence. Made him realize his differences are strengths. Through the window, they watched Theo show another boy his latest drawing, another son, this one surrounded by people holding hands. Speaking of which, Rico said, the fun's officially launched. Damon smiled. The Steel Guardians Fund, established by the Iron Wolves and allied clubs to support workers facing abuse, retaliation, or dangerous working conditions. They'd raised $847,000 in 3 months through donations, benefit rides, and merchandise sales. Marina was their first recipient, a full scholarship for nursing school, plus living expenses. But there were already 50 more applications being reviewed. Warehouse workers fired for reporting safety violations. Servers stiffed on wages with nowhere to turn. Immigrants too scared to complain about exploitation. We're making a difference, Rico said quietly. Real difference. That's the point. Damon watched Marina help a nonverbal girl express frustration through painting. Carl and Wallace thought they could hurt someone and get away with it because she had no power. We proved them wrong. Now we're making sure others have power too. The session ended an hour later. Parents collected their happy, tired children. Theo emerged with paint on his shirt and a huge smile. "I made a friend," he announced. "His name is Marcus. He likes motorcycles too." "That's great, buddy," Damon ruffled his son's hair. "You want to invite him on a ride sometime? Can we?" "Absolutely." Marina approached, wiping paint from her hands. "He did amazing today. Helped Marcus calm down during a sensory overload moment. Used the breathing technique I showed you both. Learning from the best," Damon said. Marina's expression turned serious. "Can we talk for a minute? Outside?" They stepped into the parking lot, leaving Theo comparing drawings with Marcus. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, but it didn't feel threatening anymore. It felt like freedom. "I got a letter yesterday," Marina said. "From Carl Maddox's attorney. He wanted me to know Carl's pleading guilty to all charges. 23 years in prison, no possibility of parole for 12-inch. How do you feel about that?" "Relieved. Angry it took so long. Grateful I don't have to testify and relive everything." Marina looked at the horizon. "Mostly grateful I'm alive to feel anything at all." "And Wallace?" 15 years. His trial's next month, but Chen says he'll plead out too." Marina turned to Damon. "None of this would have happened without you. Without Theo. Without all those riders who came when they didn't have to. You saved yourself, Marina. That drawing was a desperate prayer I didn't think anyone would understand. But Theo did." Her voice caught. "He saw what I needed to say when I couldn't say it. That's a gift. He thinks you're the one with the gift." Marina laughed, wiping her eyes. "Maybe we're both right." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the kids play. Eventually, Rico emerged with Theo and Marcus, the three of them talking about motorcycles. "Hey," Marina said suddenly. "I have something for you both." She pulled a small wrapped box from her bag and handed it to Theo. He opened it carefully, his methodical way. Inside was a silver pendant on a leather cord, a sun design, rays extending outward, no box around it. "For the boy who understands what others miss," Marina said softly. "Thank you for seeing me." Theo put it on immediately, touching it like a talisman. "I'll keep it forever." "I know you will." More motorcycles rumbled into the parking lot, Deshawn, Maria, Jackson Hammer, and at least 30 other riders. This had become tradition too, Saturday rides ending at Marina Center, the bikers donating time and money, sometimes just sitting with the kids who loved motorcycles. "Didn't know we were having a party," Damon said. "Thought we'd surprise you," Deshawn grinned. "Plus, Maria brought food." They set up tables outside, turned the parking lot into an impromptu celebration. Kids ran between chrome motorcycles while parents chatted with leather-clad riders who were gentler than their appearance suggested. Marina moved through the crowd, hugging people, thanking them, looking genuinely happy. As the sun began setting, painting the desert gold and pink, Damon stood with Theo watching the scene. "Dad?" Theo said quietly. "Yeah, buddy? I'm glad we stopped at that diner." Damon pulled his son close. "Me too. Even though bad things happened? Especially because bad things happened. Because we didn't ignore them. We made them right." Theo considered this, fingers touching his new pendant. "Marina says kindness is contagious. She's right. So when we help people, they help other people?" "Exactly. Then we should help lots of people." Damon smiled, his chest tight with pride. "That's the plan." In the distance, 1,000 miles away across a dozen states, other riders were rolling out on their own missions, checking on vulnerable workers, investigating suspicious disappearances, standing up to petty tyrants who thought power made them untouchable. The Iron Wolves had started something bigger than one rescue. They'd proven that ordinary people could force justice when systems failed. That visibility was a weapon. That solidarity mattered. And they'd proven something else, that a 10-year-old boy who saw the world differently could be the most perceptive person in the room. As the celebration continued, Theo pulled out his ever-present sketchbook and started drawing again. Another sun, but this time surrounded by hundreds of small figures, all connected. All riding together. Marina knelt beside him, watching the drawing take shape. "What's that one called?" Theo thought for a moment, then wrote carefully at the bottom. "Thunder." "Perfect," Marina whispered. And as engines roared to life and the convoy prepared to ride home through the cooling desert, the sound really did sound like thunder, rolling, powerful, impossible to ignore. A promise to anyone listening. If you hurt the kind, expect the storm. If you abuse the powerless, expect the numbers. If you think cruelty wins, expect to be wrong. Because somewhere out there, 1,000 engines are waiting. And they're always ready to ride. The end. In the 3 years following Marina Colby's rescue, the Steel Guardians Fund assisted 847 workers facing retaliation and abuse. Marina graduated with honors and now runs a therapy center for neurodivergent children. Theo Kane, now 13, volunteers there every weekend. Carl Maddox and Sheriff Wallace remain in prison. And on highways across America, riders still carry the message, protect the kind. Expect the thunder.